dread from it, run from it, destiny still arrives. The New England Patriots are back. Welcome back to the James and Dames Show. I'm Josiah.
And I'm Will.
And today we're going over the divisional recap of the 2025 season.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. We have some games we need to go over.
We had
pretty interesting ones.
We had two good games. And then we had two not so good games. Let's start this off with the game that was just over before it even started. Seahawks 49ers. Yeah. Seahawks blew out the 49ers so bad. This game,
This game was over by halftime.
They returned to the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and that touchdown alone was enough for them to win that game. As the 41-6, that's their defense completely manhandled Brock Purdy and the 49ers. It's a miracle the 49ers got as far as they did with the injuries they suffered and everything they had to deal with.
Yeah.
But this is the point of the year where it's not just about luck or yes, there's you have to have hard work, but this is where talent comes in and good coaching comes in, and it's where everything that makes a champion team shows up that much more. And that's kind of what I feel like we saw. The Seahawks just beat the pants off of them, as it was a pretty good day, especially for Kenneth Walker. 3 touchdowns, 116 yards on the ground. But unfortunately, this game did come with a little bit of bad news for the Seahawks, with Zach Charbonnet being ruled out for the rest of the season with an injury, which is a little not great. But luckily, Kenneth Walker's playing a lot better to this point in the season that maybe you can get by with him. But curious what your takes are on this game that was not close.
Yeah, the Seahawks, that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. I've been yelling from the mountaintop that the 49ers are going to get absolutely manhandled, depending on who they got right away in the playoffs. They just were fortunate to play the Eagles first round. The ceiling factor, in my opinion, before the game even started, was it Trent Williams, I think it was, flipping off a Seahawks fan with the boombox or whatever it is they have for to hype up or whatever it is. I saw that, and I'm like, oh no, this is not going to go very well, is it? Yeah, that game kind of epitomized the entire 49ers season. Riddled with injuries here and there. However, a good coach and, a somewhat put together team, even with all the injuries, you're still going to play pretty well, but it can only get you so far. I have been seeing a lot of excuses online about why the 49ers lost. Just a bit that you guys just ran into a juggernaut. Just get it over with. There's no reason to debate about this. It's just...
there are excuses there, but having George Kittle back doesn't win you this game. You had Nick Bosa back. It's probably not going to win you the game. Maybe makes it a little closer. And then if you add Michael Williams, Fred Warner, yeah, there's like this game could be close. Maybe if you were fully healthy, but that's also just
Maybe.
how playoffs work. Is you have to work. It's part of it is who is the healthiest team and who is able to survive the season. I'm not
Hmm.
really sure what other excuses you could have other than injury, but from years past that's always been a thing that holds you back, and you have to be healthy. You don't win. The 49ers especially have struggled to win anything when they're not healthy. So any excuse they really can come up with just doesn't seem like it's not gonna advance you to the next round. So your season's done. Where poor you. Um, yeah, I mean, moving on to there were definitely some ugly games. We saw Patriots and Texans where C.J. Stroud forgot which blue and red team he was playing for and seemed to think he was playing for the Patriots as he had four interceptions and was just it wasn't a super pretty game. Neither of the offenses were really clicking, but CJ Stroud had a really rough showing. Drake May wasn't his usual regular season self yet again, but he was he played pretty well. He had three touchdown passes, so you give him that. He wasn't turning the ball over a bunch. He did have quite a few fumbles, which is something to be worried about, but you know, didn't lose all of the fumbles. Uh, Patriots, their defense stepped up really big against the struggling offense of the Texans, and that kind of allowed them to take control of this game pretty easily, where Texans just couldn't get out of their own way. So, curious
Hmm.
how you viewed this game, where watching it was a lot of pain.
I'm not that surprised, especially we got a preview of that during the Steelers and Texans game. Um, those who were watching with me, I lost some years off my life watching that game. So seeing that, I was like, Patriots are going to have an easy route to the AFC Championship, are they? Because seeing that game, oh my gosh, it was so bad, and it repeated. Um, I did see that a lot of people are still defending C.J. Stroud, or at least on the team. Um, I think this is a good example of why you shouldn't cash in on a quarterback after a first year. I think this is a pretty good example of why you shouldn't, because you don't know what you're getting right away. Um, I do think that the Texans defense were the only ones who wanted to show up and win that game. They even made Drake May uh, like run for his life here and there. Um, Also, Drake May had a very unusual day too. I think it was like 3 or 4 turnovers on his part. Don't know how many of those were not lost. Um, but yeah, he was not doing well either. Um,
Yeah, I mean, both
yeah,
both again, like both quarterbacks have not looked like the same selves. I will say there's like you said, there's a lot of judgment towards C.J. Stroud, and he does a good job of doing enough to get this team to the playoffs every year. He does well in the first. Well, the team does really well in the first round, but as this is again why people don't give. You have to be careful giving such high praise. Is after that first year, you get to like as time goes on, you get to see who that person really is. And C.J. Stroud, I'm not saying he's a bust or anything for as a draft pick, but I'm starting to question if he's going to be someone who can even get past the second round of the playoffs. Is he has not had good performances in the divisional round against anyone in his tenure as the starting quarterback for the for the Texans, and At
You almost
halftime,
misread.
yeah, at halftime, this game became a question of do you bench CJ Stroud? Is CJ Stroud done? And there were some announcers defending CJ Stroud, or not even defending CJ Stroud, but defending keeping him in on the premise of this is your time, this is your chance to see is he the guy for your team going forward. And then there were people who were like, hey, no, you got to bench him and put in Davis Mills. I'm curious. Yeah, I want to get your opinion on what you think the right move would have. Obviously, they stuck with CJ Stroud the rest of the game. I'm curious what you thought the best move was there, though. If that was the right move, or if they should have benched him.
At half, how many turnovers did he have? Was it
Four. He had four
four? Okay.
interceptions, I believe it was.
Okay. I think at that point, um, I know he's the franchise face right now. However, something's been off with him recently. Uh, I think at that point, you kind of test the waters with Davis Mills. I'm not, like I said, or like you mentioned, not calling him a bust, but having that bad of a performance in the first half alone, to me, that kind of qualifies for benching. Maybe like a little bit longer in the game, like give him a few more reps, see what that looks like. Um, Other than that, take him out of the game. Like if he's struggling, then you're gonna have to throw in Davis Mills and see if he does any better. Because I honestly think that he might have done a little bit better. But CJ Stroud has been having issues with turnovers, a lot more than most quarterbacks, which is weird coming from him. It's literally been since that handshake he's had with Caleb Williams. Both of them have been on two different trajectories, and Stroud has just been going farther and farther downhill. It's
Yeah.
kind of sad, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it was, he's had 7 turnovers in the past 2 games, I think it was. And I forget who it was at halftime who had said it, but there was someone on the broadcast who had talked about, again, you have to keep him in because this is your way to assess is he your franchise guy. You can't. The regular season is the time to assess if this is your guy. This is the playoffs. This is your season's on the line with a chance to go to the AFC Championship. Now is not that is not the time to sit and go, "Oh, can you save your career?" No, this is we need to win a game. This isn't about your ego, your mentality. This is we need to do what's best to win this game. And so I'm completely on in I'm in the same boat as you where I think putting Davis Mills in was the right move. Obviously, I'm assuming if you're coming from D'Amico Ryan's point of view, you thought that CJ Stroud was the best move going forward, and I can understand that. But the way Davis Mills had played earlier this year, he seemed to do a pretty good job playing in the stead of CJ Stroud when he was injured. But again, CJ Stroud, he wasn't playing well last week. He didn't play well this week. He wasn't playing well at up to halftime at this week. It seemed to me like the clear decision was to take him out to give yourself a chance to go to the AFC Championship, where you knew what you had coming next week if you won this game, and they just stuck with CJ Stroud, and I think honestly that's kind of what put the end to their season. But the philosophy of no, we need to keep him in and see if he's the guy. This is not the time to see if he's your guy. You get the regular season for that. This isn't seasons on the line and he's already played like garbage the past 3 halves of the playoffs, which again, that's not to be disrespectful, but at the same time he's not been good for most of the playoffs. Actually, for pretty much all of the playoffs, he's been the one. I wouldn't say he's the one piece. There's a lot of struggles with that offense, but he has not been a shining point in that offense, and so you have to try something to try and advance, and so obviously
Yeah.
kind of bit them a little bit, and you suffer a loss that could have been a win because again, like you mentioned, Drake May, he did not have a great performance himself. It wasn't a bad performance. It was a little cleaner. Well, it was definitely more clean than CJ Stroud's, but
Oh,
at the end of
definitely.
the day, it was just the team that made less mistakes. And I guess moving on to another game where it was a team who made less mistakes. You had the Broncos and the Bills, who
Oh my gosh.
this one hurts for the Bills. This one hurts a lot. Um,
Hmm.
what was it? Josh Allen had 3 turnovers. I think it was um, one right before
Yeah.
half to give Broncos a field goal that you take away that. I mean, obviously, again, in hindsight, it's hard to say, but that those 3 points could have potentially won you the game, or
Yep.
taking away those 3 points. But instead, you go to overtime. A lot of controversy in this one with what was it? You
Yeah.
had the uh, the interception that was original, like people thought should have been a catch. There was the pass interference. Um, a lot of uh, the Bills fandom are not happy with refs right now. But there's just so much to unpack with this because you also after the game, Sean Payton comes out and tells the news that Bo Nix broke a bone in his ankle and he's going to miss the remainder of the season. And so there's so much to unpack here. And obviously there's stuff after the game too that we can get to in a minute, but sticking just to the game, what is your I mean, I know you've mentioned a little bit of it uh between, you know, humblings and a little other one, but also the live stream. What are your thoughts and takeaways from this game cuz this one carried a lot of weight.
Yeah. So let me just stick with the Broncos side first, just because it's a little bit shorter. Broncos. Yeah. News was devastating with Bo Nix going down. Um, that's just such a terrible way to lose your quarterback. I do think overall Broncos. Uh, I think they definitely did commit less mistakes. Um, I just don't. I think even. I think even without the knowledge that Bo Nix was injured prior to that, between the game and that injury, I think the Broncos definitely won that game pretty convincingly to an extent. There were definitely some points where I thought some interesting decisions were made, um, specifically on Sean Payton's part. Other than that, Broncos had a pretty solid win. Um, Obviously, take it what you want. Revenge from this last year. Um, there you go. On the Bills side, oh my goodness, this is how many years in a row? Five, 5 years in a row that Allen has not gotten them to the Super Bowl, AFC championships, and divisional rounds. Um, I don't think I've ever been more frustrated, and not just Josh Allen, but the Bills organization in general. I've been hearing things about how the roster has been handled over the season, how Sean McDermott has not been happy with the roster, how much Allen has been thrown the blame and everything. And I will say this though, I think Allen deserves all the criticism that goes all his way because don't get me wrong, I love the guy. I want him to win a Super Bowl, but he cannot be doing this kind of stuff at this point
No.
in his career. This is something that you see out of like the first couple years or so out of a quarterback. All the mistakes he's been doing. He's playing way too much hero ball. He's been uh, dancing around too much with the idea of chucking it down the field, and when he does, it always ends up in an interception or just a dumb decision in general. Um, you can, what was it? Somebody pointed out that it's super easy to pinpoint when the Bills are getting desperate is whenever they're doing the um, what is it,
Oh, the
the
desperation.
shuffle pass, the
Yeah,
desperation
they
move where they shuffle the
they
ball behind them.
I had made comments about
It's
that. They run it all the time in desperation mode, and it's funny because it works every time for them. But yeah,
it
they
does, yeah, but it goes to show that like if that's like your only move, people are gonna pick up on that,
well,
and if they're
you'd
gonna
think that.
if they know that's happening, well, yeah, you think that, but if they know generally what's happening, they also can prepare for the deep ball because Allen just likes to chuck it down the field for no reason sometimes. Like every single time I've seen this guy um, on the field, I'm always asking, please do not throw the ball 50 yards down the field. He's done it against the Chiefs several times. He's done it against the Bengals once or twice during that game back in 2021 or whatever it was. He's done it over and over and over again, and it frustrates me because I know for a fact that he can play to an elite level. He is just refusing to like not throw it down the field or to not play hero ball all the time or to not do heroics all the time. It just frustrates me as a fan because I like Allen. It's really hard to defend him after this because this is the one shot that he had to get to the Super Bowl. No Burrow, no Lamar, and especially no Mahomes. If you can't do it now, I don't think he will do it anytime soon. Then again, the roster situation this year was also not fair because for some reason that general manager was not listening to Sean McDermott or whatever the news is behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean,
There's been a whole issue with that. So I don't know
there's
what's been going on there, but
there's
it's ridiculous.
there's a lot of questions to go behind the scenes. Obviously, again, you talk the game itself, and Josh Allen, again, he was really sloppy, especially in the first half. They cleaned it up a bit. They outscored the Broncos 20-10 in the second half, and so they did a good job crawling back into this game. But it's just in a game like this, he comes out playing super sloppy, and like you mentioned, hero ball, trying to make stuff happen. And I do think a bit of it comes down to the fact that they feel Josh Allen felt the need to do that. And yeah, you can point to coaching a little bit, but there's also, like you mentioned, the complaint about receivers. The receiver room was thin, it was injured, and the management there was not great. And after the game, the Bills decided to move on from Sean McDermott, and so now the Bills are in the carousel looking for a new head coach. And I've seen some claims that McDermott was kind of used as a scapegoat. I can
Oh, he definitely
understand
was.
that.
I said he definitely was, because the person you should blame besides the performance is the general manager
Yeah, which
and Joe Brady.
I mean, yeah, there's some concerns with Joe Brady, but he had points of brilliance. He had points where it wasn't as great. The team had struggles, but the curious the roster wasn't great. There were points across the board where the roster didn't look good. The team kind of fell apart, and that kind of falls more on that one falls more on coaching. Josh Allen sometimes just didn't have good games, made poor decisions. That falls on him. It's just like across the board, there were a lot of question marks, and I understand them moving on from McDermott where he hasn't been able to get the job done, but to not only keep your GM, the GM Bean, they don't only keep him, they promote him to head of football operations and he will be conducting the search for the next head coach, that I don't quite understand when you've had the issues and these issues verbalized so clearly by the Bills, by McDermott, by everyone, and it kind of just feels like they used it. He didn't put in the effort to actually get some of these guys for him to help out Josh Allen and make it like I feel like they were just put in a bad season and they were working against themselves all year, and so it just
Oh, easily.
was not pretty. And it feels like the Bills might be, like you mentioned, this might be their window closing.
Yeah, I don't like that idea, but they need to rebuild to an extent.
They do need to fix some things up, but the final game of the divisional round. Get to that before we get to some other news. Was we got to live stream it. It was the Rams and the Bears, and this game was, well, it was kind of quiet in the middle two quarters, especially the third quarter.
Yep.
Both teams kind of struggled. Stafford had however many consecutive 3-and-outs while Caleb kept turning the ball over after starting some drives. But at the end of the day, the middle of this game was dominated by defense, and it was bookended by some pretty solid offensive performances. I think,
Yeah.
honestly, both these teams, it was just a fun game to watch. Both teams should be, you have a little bit of concern here and there, but both teams should be really proud of the outcome of the season and where they've gotten to this point. Uh, Bears almost making another comeback, but Rams holding on in another scary fashion. It was such a fun game to watch. That's all I can really take away from this is fun game to watch. Rams get to go and potentially break Sam Darnold's heart again, and Bears, you just get to try and hold your head high as you have put so much promise in the heart of Chicago fans.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that because this is the first time we've seen in a long time that the Bears have actually had a good quarterback, a good coach, and everything all in one place. Obviously, Chicago, very rare that they get a consistent quarterback. I think they have it in Caleb Williams. Obviously, second year, there's a lot of, pressure on that. And now here we are. Caleb Williams is probably going to continue to progressively get better. A lot of people were doubting him before the season. I admit I was kind of one of those doubters here and there because I just didn't know what to expect of him. Obviously, with the addition of Ben Johnson, however, that changed everything. So I think Chicago has a bright future. It makes the NFC North finally competitive again on all four teams, which is nice. Obviously, some teams are better than others here and there. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to see what this new era of Chicago football kind of instigates because I like it when Chicago's good. As a side note, however, I have been seeing a lot of people, specifically Packers fans, going online and say the Bears still suck.
Huh.
Didn't you? Huh. I don't remember you ever playing a game this last weekend.
It's a very good point.
Who'd you lose to again? Who'd you lose to again?
Hmm.
I think, in my opinion, teams who lost the week prior have no room to talk, especially if the team that beat them loses the next week. Green Bay needs to be quiet
Yeah,
because
especially
there's been a lot of chirping over there. So
especially in the realm of the fact that it's not even like the Bears got blown out. Like this was actually a good game.
no, this was a close game. Yeah,
Yeah, they're pretty much an interception away from the NFC Championship. That you take
yeah,
away that overtime intercept, like if that overtime interception doesn't happen, say it falls incomplete, Bears still have a really good chance of kicking a field goal that wins the game. Like it was real close to being Bears Seahawks in the NFC Championship instead of Rams Seahawks. But again, alas, they come up short. But they don't suck. That's definitely not an
No,
accurate statement. They've far outperformed the Packers. That's for sure. So
hmm
Green Bay
if
talking
they suck,
smack.
how'd they beat you twice?
Yeah, I mean, I get the point. That it's like, haha, you lost too, but it's they still have a playoff win, and
Sure.
they get to hold that over your head. But
And they're the ones who moved on. So
yeah,
yeah,
uh,
just mentioning with the Rams and everything, their game plan was a little sloppy here and there, but overall, if they can clean up some mistakes, I think they have a better shot in the future. But this game was pretty good. Came down to the wire, no leads blown or anything. It was just back and forth the entire time. It was a little
yeah,
slow, but it happened.
I slowed up a little bit, but
No,
as
just a
that
little bit.
is the last game of the divisional round, there is a bit of news that's been coming out as you know coaches are starting to get hired, and so this is where it's gotten to be a little interesting. Obviously, we mentioned McDermott getting fired, so now Buffalo's looking for a new head coach. But looking at hirings before we get into potential hirings, we saw Harbaugh go to the Giants. That happened before the weekend. So he got signed there. We saw Stefanski to Atlanta. That one's going to be
Mm-hmm.
fun. We've seen a lot of Baker Mayfield talking some smack as he's going to get a kind of, he's going to get a revenge season going against his old head coach um, twice a year this next year.
Yep.
Robert Sala is expected to sign with Tennessee. And then
Yep.
we
I think they've
saw.
already.
Yeah,
I think they already made a deal.
I didn't see the contract deal, but I know that was in the works. But yeah, that's what's to be there. And then we got Jeff Halfley, the defensive coordinator for. Um, he was for the Packers. He's signing with Miami as their next head coach, and we
Mm-hmm.
see Mike McDaniel's, former head coach of Miami, is expected to it is expected to be the next OC for the Chargers. So we've seen some shifting around, and I'm curious to see what to you is the best hire so far.
That's kind of difficult. Most of them. I think most of them are a pretty good situation. Uh, Going off the Chargers one, you got rid of Greg Roman. I think getting an offensive-minded coordinator, obviously, of Mike McDaniel's, he'll definitely help a little bit. Stefanski to the Falcons, I'm not too surprised with that. Um, I'm curious to see what he does with Penix, though. Um, Harbaugh going to the Giants, culture changer there. Honestly, I think that's really all that is. Um, so we'll see what they do there. I think Harbaugh might make some noise, but I don't think it'll be immediate. Um, Sala going to the 49ers, or not 49ers, coming from the 49ers to the Titans. Um, kinda, kinda makes sense. Their defense was really bad. So was their offense. So anything would really help. Then again, I'm curious to see how Sala and Cam Ward work together. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'll say as much as especially as a defensive coordinator, I love Robert Sala.
hmm
Like you look at his tenure with the Jets as their head coach, and there was just a lot of like question marks around him where he didn't seem super legit, and so you'd hope he'd go to one of the like maybe not go to a little bit better of a situation to kind of prove himself. Where this kind of feels like, oh no, it's going to be the Titans are going to end up like the Jets did. because that just
Maybe.
doesn't feel as you want to see more a team that has had more success put more faith in a coach like Saleh, because that gives you a little more faith in him. Whereas like you look at Miami, who's been a mess, and they're going out and getting Jeff Hafley, which is like, I mean, Hafley did a pretty good job with the Packers. Their defense was not as effective without Micah Parsons, obviously, but it's like this team
Yeah.
that's had a lot of questionable decisions in the past, and over the past couple of years, it's just been like it's been a little bit questionable. Now you're going out and getting him, and it's like makes it kind of feel like it puts a little bit of doubt in Hafley because of the organization, and teams that's the case for, like it. I mean, you look at teams like potentially like the Raiders, whoever their head coach is going to be, you're going to have a little bit of question about it. But looking at the remaining opening spots, before we had mentioned Baltimore was one of the better openings because you come in, you get Lamar, you get Derrick Henry, and all that. But now we've added, well, with Baltimore, we've had Arizona, Cleveland, and Las Vegas. Who, I mean, Las Vegas is the most enticing with the top pick, I guess. But then you've added
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo and Pittsburgh, who are now. Buffalo, I think, is a more enticing one where can try and keep this window open with Buffalo and see if you can stay in a win now situation to push to the playoffs and to a Super Bowl. Pittsburgh, I don't I don't know how you feel about Pittsburgh, where
Tear it all down.
like the most security you're gonna get with this job is you're gonna have an old team. You might maybe be able to keep Rodgers for another year. Like there's some talent there, but
Tear it all
most
down.
likely they're gonna be looking at a rebuild here.
Yeah.
So uh,
They need to go. They need to go through it. They've been the same thing with the New Orleans Saints for a long time. Refuse to tank or quote unquote tank because tanking isn't a real thing technically. Um, refuse to get better. Refuse to get worse so they can rebuild or go all the way. They were just mediocre for so long. I just think they just need to tear it all down and have a new uh, culture there. Um, Tomlin has had a really bad issue of letting a toxic um, football environment, especially in the locker room, throughout his tenure. Specifically when AB, Le'Veon Bell, and Ben Roethlisberger were on the same team. Obviously, getting Rodgers was a big like, what the heck? Makes sense because Tomlin and Rodgers like each other, but Rodgers also has a big ego, so there's a lot of things about Tomlin letting certain things slide in order to, create a football team that's supposed to, go all the way. But then again, I still think that the Steelers need to rebuild because I'm sorry, you're not going to the Super Bowl with that team. Um, Especially with how old they are. Hayward needs to retire. Like he's on his last leg. Rodgers is probably done. Sure, you have DK Metcalf and all those players still, but they're not as you know
yeah,
lively as they once were.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of these are gonna be head scratchers, and where it's gonna be fun to see who goes where. Um, as we know there are some guys who are still available. Some of these teams might be waiting on teams that are still in the playoffs to go after some of their guys, as we've seen. Like a lot of Kubiak is a highly praised guy. Potentially Vance Joseph, who has been leading that Denver defense for quite some time, and then I believe is it Mike LaFleur, who is the offensive coordinator for the Rams. So there's quite a few guys who are potentially, teams are waiting on them, or maybe still figuring stuff out. But I'm curious to see how things develop in, I mean, next couple days, even the next week or so, to see how some of these positions fill out, as we've still got quite a few openings. I mean, we got 3/4 of the of the AFC North still without a head coach. Somehow Zach Taylor's the only one still standing as a head coach in that division, and yeah,
Tells you
that's
all you need to know about the Cincinnati Bengals.
yeah, that is about all you need to
So,
know. But a lot of speculation here, and it's going to be fun to kind of take a look back at all of the coaching news when it wraps up. Maybe we'll do a little grading on that in the coming weeks. But that is about all we have for the divisional round recap of this season. So, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a wild season, and we're almost at the end. Can't believe that. But we look forward to seeing you in the next video.
see ya.
Bye.